Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players, uncover their stories, and discover what makes them tick. If you love guitar, music, and the backstory of people's lives, stick around. You're in the right place. Hi, this is Craig. Just want to let you know you can now advertise here on Everyone Loves Guitar podcast. For more information, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar, and we're with the one and only Aaron McLain. You probably know Aaron as a lead guitar player for Air Supply. He's got a really rich career. We'll talk about that. He's a multi-talented musician, singer, songwriter, producer, and composer, and he's a film and television scorer as well. He studied at the Dick Grove School of Music in L.A. He's an L.A. native who's worked with some of the hottest names in the business. Like I said, he's recorded for the likes of Air Supply, but he's also worked with Marc Anthony, Jennifer Lopez, Tears for Fears singer Oleta Adams, Patti LaBelle, Terrance Trent Darby, Boys Don't Cry, Beto Cuevas, music director for Rebby Jackson, and he's currently, like I said, lead guitarist and music director for the hit pop group Air Supply. Aaron's performed with artists on TV shows, including Marc Anthony, live at Madison Square Garden, HBO special, The Tonight Show, Saturday Night Live, The Today Show, the Latin Billboard Awards, Victoria's Secret Fashion Awards, Winter Olympics, which we're going to talk about, Marc Anthony CBS special, the Grammys, Miss Universe, Billboard Awards, Blockbuster Awards, Gloria Estefan special, Mad TV, Rosie O'Donnell, The View, Craig Kilborn, and loads of others. Man, you got those gigs because some of them because you're good looking. Like they wouldn't, if I was the best guitar player in the world, they wouldn't invite me on Victoria's Secret.
I think you would do just fine, my friend. Just fine.
Aaron also actually got a Latin Grammy for his guitar work on the 2013 Beto Cuevas album called Transformación, which won in the Best Pop and Rock Album category. And as a composer, he scored the music for the film Convincing Clooney, and he's got loads of credits on the hit game show Price is Right, as well as credits for Real Housewives of Orange County, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Below Deck, Kate Plus 8, Pawn Stars, Wags Miami, Dating Naked, The Ridiculousness, and loads of others. And we'll talk about some of that today. Hey, man, I really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on the show, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So you're welcome. It's my pleasure, man. Dick Grove, we were talking about that before we went on air. What made you pick Dick Grove over like Musicians Institute or UCLA music program?
Well, I'll tell you, coming out of high school, I remember I went to St. Monica's High School down in Santa Monica, and I was talking to my music teacher, Ed Archer, and he had gone to Cal State Northridge. And Cal State Northridge, the music curriculum is nothing like it is now. I understand it's like, they're doing wonderful things over there, and but it was, and I was enrolled in Cal State Northridge. I was going to go to Northridge, and I was in the music program, and I did the orientation. But at that time, the curriculum was basically like I would say 100% classical. And I knew I wasn't going to be a classical musician. I didn't have the chops for it, and of course, you really have to be very, very, very exceptional, to make a good living or a decent living. So
you have to like that too,
What's that?
You have to like it.
You really have to like it. And, it's like it's really got to be your thing, and I knew it wasn't my thing. However, I knew I wanted to be a musician because that was my, that was my passion. But I did not know about Dick Grove. And MI was, it had been around, but I told Ed Archer, I said, listen, Ed, it's like, I need to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. And I'm not sure exactly where to go. So he was like, well, Aaron, look, he goes, look at it this way. He goes, I went to Cal State Northridge, and look at me. He goes, I'm a music teacher over here at St. Monica's High School. Now I'm like thinking that, there's really nothing wrong with that. But he was like, he goes, you could go to Northridge, but he goes, I think that you can end up doing some really great things. And he said, you should think about Dick Grove School of Music. And I had never heard of Dick Grove at the time. And then I went home to my mom. I'm like, hey, I said, Mom, it's like Ed told me about this music school that's out in the valley, that's called Dick Grove. I said, we should go check it out. And then I also went to MI. And at the time, MI was really, when I checked out Dick Grove, I checked out MI, and MI was really, there was a lot of guys that were out there shredding. You know, it's just like metal shredding. So I went to Dick Grove, and I spoke to Dick, and then I spoke to, I can't remember, there were so many different guitar teachers. I think his name was Adam as well, speaking of Adam Levy. And I talked to him, and he sat me down, and he basically wanted to see where my knowledge was as far as musical theory. And I wasn't where I should be, so he told me, you kind of need to study this and learn some of that before you come in, before we can accept you and whatnot. You know, so I had about 6 months, but just going in, the curriculum was mainly jazz. You know, it was focused around jazz. You know, about like 4 or 5, 6-part harmony and things like that. So, and it was theory was heavily emphasized. So it wasn't like, okay, you're just going to learn how to play a bunch of fast notes and go out there and shred and show off at Guitar Center. It's like you're going to learn music. So, I mean, Dick's thing was like, if you can play jazz, you can pretty much play anything. And, he wasn't wrong, but so that's why I went to Dick Grove. And once, I had that interview with Adam, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And I was over at, I had to do a semester at Santa Monica Community College until January, where I could start up at Dick Grove. And so that's where that whole Dick Grove thing came to be.
Very cool, man. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So after you got out of Dick Grove, how'd you go about finding work?
Well, luckily enough, back in those days, before the economy crashed and everything, the home studio thing is great, because I've got a nice home studio and it's lovely and I'm happy to have gear. But back then there was a community of, if you needed to do a session, you'd have to drive and go to somebody's studio, and somebody was paying studio time. There's a producer, there's the artist, and it was just like a nice community, and everybody was just going around and doing whatnot, But I got really, really lucky, once I graduated from Dick Grove. I'm trying to figure out what I did right after that. Well, after I graduated from Dick Grove, I ended up, working a couple of odd jobs. I was a courier, and I worked in a clothing store. And from there, a friend of mine had told me, his name is Sam Minkamiller. He's out in Ohio. I think he's in Nashville now, percussionist and drummer. And he told me to go out to Glendale, and there was a club out there, and he said, you should meet this guy named Mike Licata, who's a good friend of mine. We're like still one of my best friends, and I just saw him a couple of days ago in Vegas. So he said you should meet Mike Licata. Mike Licata was the music director for Jermaine Stewart. Jermaine Stewart had that hit, We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off, and a couple of other just really, really big hits, big pop hits. And at the time, everybody knew, who Jermaine Stewart was. This was 1987 going into 88. So I sat in the car with Mike outside the club, and he had his old raggedy car. He called it the Rice Rocket, and I had this yellow Pontiac Sunbird that my grandfather had given me, so I can drive back and forth to the valley. And I had thrashed the front grill in that thing. It was yellow, faded. It was not a pretty car, let me tell you. But it got me from point A to point B, and I was very glad that my grandfather gave me a set of wheels. So anyway, so we sat outside in the parking lot, and he played me some of Jermaine's newest stuff. That half of that record was produced by Andre Simone, the whole Prince Minneapolis thing. And that record, it was called Say It Again, and that record was funky. Like, it was really good. So we were listening to it in the car. I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do. But what was going on was I was going to go on tour with a top 40 band, and I'd been rehearsing for a solid week, and we were going to go to Arizona and Nevada and play all these casinos. And I really didn't want to do it. But I was like, okay, I can go on the road, and I can go, and I had to, learn how to play Super Freak and play all those tracks. So Mike was like, and that was guaranteed. I was going to go, and I was going to leave like the following week, and Mike's like, Aaron, and the whole Jermaine thing was still kind of up in the air. He goes, man, we're going to be touring. We're going to do this and do this. So I decided not to do the top 40 thing. I decided to stay home and rehearse with Mike and the guys in Jermaine's band. Mike put the rest of the guys together. Orlando Sims, rest his soul, really good bass player, amazing bass player, really good friend of mine. And so we started rehearsing in Mike's friend, his roommate's garage out in the valley. It was in summertime. It was scorching hot. We didn't have any gear hardly, and we were just putting it together. We didn't have the computers and everything because the pop stuff, you want to put that stuff on a click and whatnot, and we rehearsed. And then like 4 or 5 months later, before you know it, we're out in the UK and we're doing Top of the Pops and Live at the Roxy. And we're doing all these TV shows and these appearances, and we're living like rock stars, and it's just fantastic. And at the time when I met Mike, I was 22, and then when I'm over in the UK, I'm like 23. And then, with the label, the manager, Jermaine's manager, he's like, go to Guitar Center, pick out the gear that you want. So we're like kids in candy stores.
Wow.
Candy store. So we're picking out all our gear, and it was just so overwhelming. And then we're rehearsing at Mates, and then we're getting ready. We've got all these drum risers and all that stuff, and then we've got like these outfits that Jermaine had designed with these leopard print. And then we end up going on tour with the Jets and Stacy Q. We do this North American tour, tour buses and whatnot. And it was just like, young kids just like living like rock stars, and it was just fantastic. So that was the beginning.
That's very cool, man.
Gig out of Big Road.
Was that a blessing and a curse at the same time, getting that such a great deal as your first gig?
At the time, it was like all blessing. It was all blessing. It wasn't a blessing when the tour stopped.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, yeah.
Yeah, when the tour stopped, because you're thinking that I'm
here, I'm arrived. Yeah.
So here it is, and then the tour stopped, and then it was like we were all like twiddling our thumbs, kind of like what I'm doing right now. But but I was like, oh, and then I ended up, having to find a job, and it was a very humbling experience. Let me tell you. And I actually I auditioned for, Gemma Corfield over at Virgin. I think she signed Lenny Kravitz, and so she was a friend of mine. So I would call her up, and she would send me out on auditions. And she sent me out for Paul Abdul, and the MD, for whatever reason, I could see he was like, scouring at me, and just like I could see from the beginning he just didn't want me in the band. So I didn't expect that to happen. It didn't work out. So I ended up getting a job called it was at Helsinki for men. The hair loss back in the day, you would put these shampoos and conditioners on. So I worked in the mailroom, and a lot of men were not happy with the product, so I had to open up the mail. They weren't happy with the product, so they would send letters, and in those letters, sometimes the envelopes would have something that was like, you could see there's something in there that's not exactly a piece of paper. So I'd open up, and lots of times it was cat poop.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Sometimes it would just be, a piece of paper with a bunch of boogers. You can see that they just smeared it with, but I'm like, this is just not right, man. So I did that for about a year, and then I hooked up with another guy, and started doing a bunch of funky reggae stuff. So I'll just let you ask another question, because that's a whole nother thing that led me into Oleta Adams and whatnot.
How did you get through that, man? Because I'm sure you were like very bummed.
It was depressing.
Yeah,
it was depressing,
that's a tough.
Because I was still driving in that same car, and the thing is, at the time, that Jermaine Stewart gig, we had played at the Universal Amphitheater, and then it became the Gibson Amphitheater. Then it no longer exists over in Universal, and that was the coveted gig. Jermaine's gig was like everybody wanted that gig, because it was during that whole Prince, Michael Jackson thing. It was that thing. But then to have Jermaine's gig in LA was just like, it was great. We ended up, we were kicking butt on that stage, man. We were throwing it down big time. And the Jets and Stacy Q, the Jets were headlining. And after we had played in Universal, half the audience walked out because they were there to see Jermaine.
Wow.
They walked. And the Jets came on to like a half empty audience. They didn't like that. And then suddenly, about maybe a week or two later, after our gig in San Diego, they booted us off the tour, and Jermaine, rest his soul, he ended up passing some time ago, wasn't able to pick up another gig. We did a couple of spot dates here and there, and after that, so it was very disheartening, and it was depressing. And then have to to go ahead and work in the mailroom, because look, I went to music school out of high school. So I didn't have like some college background where I can go and, just like, oh, let me go get it.
Fall back on your accounting career or something. Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I totally get it.
It's going to happen.
What, were you still practicing like at night, or were you playing at all?
I was always practicing. I was in my apartment on Saturn Street, and I was just, the goal was to get gear, and I had like a 2-track or like one of those 4 tracks. I had my Hamer guitars. I hooked up a Hamer endorsement at the time, because of the Jermaine thing. And I was just practicing, was what I was doing, was practicing a lot until I could jump on another gig. And then I eventually did jump on a funky reggae gig, and that lasted for years. And, it was like a lot of local stuff, Santa Barbara, LA, a lot of parties, a lot of clubs. That's when you could actually play clubs and get paid decent money.
Sure.
And people would actually go to the club to listen to like live music and dance and have a good time.
Sure.
Those were those days.
How long have you been with Air Supply now, and how'd you first get the gig with them?
Well, let's see. I've been with Air Supply just a little bit over 7 years now.
Okay.
And jumping ahead, like further, like later on in my career, I was working with Boys Don't Cry, and Nick, the leader of Boys Don't Cry, Nick Richards, I hooked up with him, actually, oddly enough, to a friend I'm no longer in contact with, Kirk Arnold. So he turned me on to this party. And there was a party that happened to Bell Canyon over here in the valley. And so I used to go to that party, and there were like a lot of these jams. So you would have a lot of musicians. Albert Lee would come in, Kevin Eubanks lived right down the street. He'd come in and jam. I'd get up there and jam. We'd do a lot of blues. I'd do a lot of Hendrix. Warwick Rose, it was his place, and a lot of cats would go in there. It was just such a good hang. So that's kind of like, Kirk had taken me there, and I met Nick and Boys Don't Cry, started talking. And the reason why we kind of hooked up, the reason why we hooked up is because they were going to do this 70s tour, the 60s to 70s tour or something like that. And they were going to have, it was a tribute tour, and they needed a Jimi Hendrix lookalike, guitar player type guy. So I recorded a version of Purple Haze and All Along the Watchtower, and I sent that to them, and they were like, oh, this is great. So that was kind of like in the running for that. But some of the British guys, that were going to do some of the Moody Blues stuff, they were like, no, his voice sounds so innocent and whatnot. So they weren't feeling it. I ended up not doing that. The tour lasted, I think, maybe a couple weeks, and then it just went belly up. They just ran out of money. So that's how I ended up with Nick. And then Nick was doing the Boys Don't Cry thing. I want to be a cowboy. And so I was the guitar player, and then eventually became the MD for that. And we started doing a bunch of shows around throughout Southern California, where we would have Fee Waybill from the Tubes. We would have Terry Nunn from Berlin. We would have the Motels come in. They would do 2 songs apiece. So I would do all the sequencing for these tracks. And then, Mike was playing drums, and Mike Licata, who hooked me up with Jermaine Stewart. So he was playing drums, and then I brought my friend, my boy Doug Gilden, who's now I also brought him in to play bass for Air Supply. So we were doing that gig, and Dion Estes, who was with Wham, who was with George Michael for a long time, also was playing bass. Amazing bass player. So he ended up inviting Amir Efrat, who was a current keyboard player at the time in Air Supply. So we were doing a gig in Thousand Oaks, and we're, doing our thing. And I'm like rocking, and, we're doing the Talk to You Later, and Fee Wade goes up there, he's rocking, and I'm like doing that Steve Lukather solo, and just, we're just killing it, man. And so apparently Air Supply was looking for a guitar player. Amir Efrat was in the audience because Dion had invited him down, and he and Amir went to Graham Russell and said, look, I found a guitar player. So I got on the phone with Graham. And Graham and I had a conversation, and I got to tell you, it's like, it was funny when I first spoke to Graham. It's like Graham's like, he's like this, because my wife and I were doing some research on Air Supply, checking out some of the songs. I mean, we knew some of the songs, after seeing the show, I didn't realize I knew all those songs, so we're doing some research. And then Graham gets on the phone with me, and he's like, Aaron, mate, he goes, Air Supply is not what you think it is. It's an in-your-face rock show. I'm like Air Supply, in your face rock show. I'm like, come on, man. So he goes, look. So they just happened to be playing. I was going to go to Europe because my wife is from the Czech Republic, and we were going to go to Europe, to visit her folks. And so a couple of weeks, once I had gotten back, about a month after the conversation, they were playing at the Canyon Club, which is like 10 minutes from my house, which is a really awesome spot. We do the Canyon Clubs a lot around here with Air Supply. So I went there to check out Air Supply, and I sat in a room with Graham and Russell. Russell's standing up, Graham is sitting down. Russell is sitting there quietly, just sizing me up. Graham is asking all the questions, And it was just, and I'm walking in the room and I'm like feeling like I'm walking into the room like amongst royalty, really. I mean, these guys, it's like once you get around them, it's just like, and their track record, knowing these guys, especially knowing what I know now, it's like even shortly after meeting them, it's like how long they've been going at it and all their hits. So they were asking me all these questions, and I met the crew guys and I met the band guys. And then I sat with management, in the back there and watched the whole show. And I was like, song after song after song. I'm like, this is Air Supply. This is Air Supply. This is Air Supply. And it was just a great show. I'm like, this is going to be fantastic. And I remember Barry Siegel, their current manager, and always their manager. And he goes, are you sure you're ready to do all this traveling? And, I was still doing Boys Don't Cry, but this is after the economy had tanked. So, to find a good steady gig between. So you don't say no to such things. So I did not say no. I said yes. My daughter had just turned. She was just about to turn 2. She was 1. And so it was a tough decision, but I'm glad I did, because my life is a lot different in a more positive way. And hey, look, man, to have a steady gig, like I said, needle in a haystack in these days.
Yeah, totally. It's amazing though. You're probably not as aware of it because it's your thing. You probably gave me like 7 or 8 or 9 names. Well, I met with this guy, and then he brought this guy in, and then I got this guy. What I'm saying is the likelihood of you getting connected to Amir had to go through like 7 or 8 people. That's a lot of serendipity involved.
Oh, completely. There's no accidents, man.
Yeah, man. That's like, what is the chances of everyone, one cog in that wheel misses, you're like doing something else,
Yeah.
You might be shipping hair products out or something like that again,
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is wild, man. What a cool thing. Very good story, man. I really enjoy that. For each, you've done some really cool gigs. Talk about, I'm going to throw some names out there. If you could talk about how you got the gig, Aaron, and maybe if there's a cool or interesting story about working with them. And let's talk about Miss Patti LaBelle first.
Well, Patti LaBelle, I recorded for Patti LaBelle.
Okay.
Yeah, I recorded for her, and Sammy McKinney was like her right-hand man, and he had come to one of the shows that I did at the Directors Guild when I was with Oleta Adams, and Roland from Tears for Fears was there. Everybody was in that. Rosie O'Donnell, that's when I first met her, and then was oddly enough, and I started doing a bunch of shows with her, or doing her show with Marc Anthony. But we had done this industry gig, and Sammy McKinney was in the audience, and there was just a lot of just amazing. I mean, I just really, it was just see all the people that was in that audience, to check Oleta out, and I was 25, I think, at the time. So we did the after party, and it was from there that Sammy McKinney contacted me. I don't know how he reached out, I think through Oleta's management or something. And he reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to do some session work for Patti.
Wow.
And so I met Patti a couple times. My buddy Anthony, his mom, Ju Gatlin, is good friends with her. So I met her a couple times, but I actually recorded on one of her records.
Very cool, man.
Yeah. So as far as doing live shows, I didn't do live shows. I did some studio recording stuff with her.
That's great. How about the Winter Olympics? What'd you do for that? That sounds like an amazing gig.
That was right when I first got with Marc Anthony, and that's when the Olympics was. I don't remember what year that was. 19 something. 2000. I think it was 2001, 2002, maybe. I don't even know. I can Google it. But that was down in Salt Lake, and it was outside. It was freezing. It was freezing. And did I mention it was freezing? It was freezing, dude. It was just like, it was just, you're a guitar player. You know what it's like to have really cold hands and trying to, pick and articulate and, all that. And it's just a nightmare. But it was an honor to be a part of it. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
It was fantastic, just to be on that stage and like, hey, man, we're playing at the Winter Olympics. This is pretty groovy.
Yeah, literally, maybe billions of people saw that on television.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Lots of great TV stuff with Marc, I got to tell you.
So then talk about Marc Anthony and Jennifer Lopez. Now, I'm assuming you worked for them when they were like a couple or something, probably?
Exactly.
Yeah. That would be odd, like,
yeah.
now, like, it's not likelihood you'd work for one of them now and then go work for the other one.
Yeah. There's, obviously some things I can't talk about.
Oh, yeah.
But So you want to know how I got the gig with Marc?
Yeah, how'd you get the gig with Marc, and then some cool stories?
Well, I'll tell you some cool stories. Well, I have to remember some of the stories, but I will tell you how I got the gig. It was, as a matter of fact, I was working with an agency called Active Entertainment, and from Active Entertainment, and my friend, another good friend, Armand Livingston, really cool cat, great drummer. He knew Bruce Sterling at Active Entertainment, and at the time, again, before the economy tanked, you had Active Entertainment, and then you also had Ricky Minor, MD, does, American Idol, Grammys, the MD of MDs. Ricky Minor's just like, that everybody knows Ricky.
Yeah, I've heard his name mentioned 10 times.
So at the time, Active Entertainment, they were doing a lot of stuff. So a lot of the labels would go to Active Entertainment, and if they needed musicians for TV shows, let's say, I don't know, The Tonight Show or Saturday Night Live, or there's an artist that was coming to town, you go to SIR or Third Encore, and they would put the band together, do some auditioning, whatever, and then this would be the band for this. If you're lucky, you go out and do some spot dates. If you're real lucky, you go do some touring, and you could have a nice little career, like a short-lived career, whatever. So they sent me out. Bruce had sent me out to audition for Marc Anthony over at SIR off of Sunset, and dude, everybody was trying to get that gig. That audition lasted for 2 weeks, and this was right at the top of the whole Latin explosion. So once the word got out that Marc was auditioning, and I'm talking, you had Jonathan Moffett, you had a lot of amazing musicians out there. So Kenny Crouch was up for being the MD, and I knew Kenny, from another group that I'd worked with called Domino Theory, and so I started the songs that we were auditioning. One of the songs was I Need to Know. I Need to Know if you know that song. Tell me, baby girl, I need to know. There's no guitar on that. So what I did was I always had this knack for coming up with parts. So I had a clean guitar sound in my wah-wah. So I started, just, off the one in the dominant 7, I was doing this wah-wah, this funky thing. And I was like, just getting a groove on. And, so that was working, and Bruce Sterling and everybody, they were like kind of feeling it. So then the next day, they said, come back, and I was bringing my VAC Pit Bull, and that's a heavy amplifier. So I was bringing that, and they said, okay, well, come back the next day. So then they were like, okay, leave your gear. So then they bring out more drummers will come up, other bass players, and they swap. Then they try a couple more guitar players. After a week, I was just like, I was just there. And then Marc came in that last week or the second week, and they were like, okay, this is a band. And they had Tiki Pasillas on drums, of course, Kenny Crouch, myself. And they were like, okay, so this is who we think would be the band. And then Marc, I was playing that funky part, and Marc was like, loving it. And then Manisa comes over to me, and she's like, Marc loves you. I'm like, are you serious? And I had no idea what was in store for me, from doing that audition. I knew good things were coming, but I didn't know that great things were coming. So, we exchanged information, and I started getting calls and everything. And then, so we would do like these rehearsals. We had the pop band. We were auditioning for the pop band, and, Marc had a salsa band, but the pop band was separate. So they were going to do a tour with the pop band and the salsa band. So I ended up getting the gig, and then we did some spot dates. And then like in February, I'm in New York rehearsing for about a month at SIR out there. We're getting ready for a theater tour. And the main thing was getting ready to rehearse, to do the live at Madison Square Garden, this big, huge HBO special. And you see these huge murals like right in Times Square. And it was extremely overwhelming, extremely. There was so much hype behind it, so much TV behind it. And once we did that TV show, that show, it was, that was worldwide, and millions of people saw that show. And what was really great is like there was a song called "Don't Let Me Leave" that I do this guitar solo that Michael Thompson did. I think I did it justice. We of course had to film 2 nights in a row just to make sure, for editing purposes, wear the same thing and whatnot. So I did that solo, and then Marc introduces me, and he's like, Aaron McLain on guitar, and he says that on live television. And so that just from sideman put me like to like the next level of sidemanship. So floodgates open as far as endorsements and and then just meeting people, and it was just fantastic. So the Jennifer thing came when Marc, when he ended up divorcing Dianara, he ended up marrying Jennifer.
Hold on one second. I just want to ask you a question. That's unusual. You mentioned that he had a separate band for salsa and a separate band for rock, and you're all going out on tour together. That's like unheard of today.
It's completely unheard of.
Here you can have 2 bands.
That's what it was. I mean, the entourage was huge. The salsa band alone was huge. So then what happened was, as time progressed, they kind of meshed. So I started playing acoustic with the salsa band, and there were 2 bass players, like 3 keyboard players. Of course, a horn section, but I Need to Know, the salsa band played on that, so there would be like some of the salsa band and the pop band would kind of mix in certain songs, on certain songs, like I Need to Know, because that needed that salsa rhythm section. So then again, there some of the pop songs, it would just be the pop band, so there'd be like 4 or 5 of us on stage. So if you see that HBO special, you'll see that musicians are going off, and then there's a pop band, there's a salsa band, and I think, and I don't agree, but I think one of the executives, their thing was, well, the salsa guys, they have a feel for. So I mean, it maybe in a sense, I don't want to offend any. The salsa musicians are some of the best musicians in the world, and
sure.
I think they can play anything. But their theory was like, you want to get pop guys that know how to play pop stuff, and there's a certain pocket for that, and then you get the salsa guys that play the salsa stuff because they know that, and the salsa. You can't get a pop guy, a rock musician, and say, go play with the salsa band, because you got to know what's going on with that clave. If you don't know what's happening with salsa music, you can't get up and say, oh, I'm in a salsa band.
Yeah, you need to be experienced in that.
You know what I mean? So eventually it just started to mesh together, and then some of the musicians started to fade away. Some people got let go, and then it was just one big band. So
I saw this solo of you and Marc Anthony and another guitar player online doing Hotel California. That was great, actually.
And that was one of the times of my life, just doing that song and doing that. We did a CBS special, and we did Hotel California, and that's what you saw.
That was great.
Sun in Connecticut, man, and that was just fantastic. Because that's one of the best songs in the world.
Yeah.
Ever written, and to play those solos, man, like that on that scale was just unreal. And
you guys were tight. You and the other, you had some good interplay on that song.
Yeah. Anybody, great guitar player, really good guitar player. So there was a lot of stuff going on, but it was great.
Very cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Get ready to talk about J-Lo.
So Marc ended up marrying J-Lo. I think it was kind of sudden. But I'm not gossiping, so I mean that's pretty much public knowledge. Hey, Google that. So that was extremely sudden.
Yeah.
So Jennifer was on board, and so it was great. She was really cool, actually. She was really cool. So we would go down and to South America. And I think part of the whole deal with a lot of the promoters would be Jennifer would be a part of that ticket. So, and they would do, Marc and Jennifer did a 2 duets, and I know one of the duets was No Me Amas. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. I hope I am. Anyway, so Jennifer would come down, and she did get her, she was J-Lo, so she put that gown on, and the jewelry and everything, and have she'd have the hairstylist flown in and do her hair and makeup and whatnot, and she'd get up there, and Marc and Jennifer, they would do their duet. And the crowd, we would play like soccer stadiums, especially down in South America. So, I mean, soccer, we'd go like at midnight, and then the crowd would be out there, there'd be reggaeton groups going on, to like from noon, and the crowd would just be standing there, that whole time. It's just insane how,
that's crazy, man. That
whole crowd stuff, not my bag, but, hey, so we'd go on, and then the crowd would go crazy. And then a lot of times Jennifer would be off to the side of the stage. She wouldn't do every show, but she did most of the shows, especially the bigger shows. So we did a lot of those shows. And then when they were down in Bel Air, they invited me over to their place to do some recordings, to record some demos. So I sat in a room with Marc and Jennifer, and I think that was Jennifer's dad that was there. He was watching a baseball game or something. Really nice guy. He liked the Heineken. Marc liked to drink Heineken. So did Jennifer. She would have but it's hanging out with Jennifer and Marc. Jennifer was, if you just hang out with her, she is just like, she really is Jenny from the block, just straight up homegirl, just straight up chilling. Yeah, it's really cool, man. So, so I had a lot of fun experiences with them. And as a matter of fact, Marc rented out, I think it was a Houston Astrodome, for her birthday. And
wait a minute, he rented out the Astrodome?
Rented out the Astrodome for her birthday.
Oh my God, that's crazy money.
We all had these jerseys, and I still have my jersey because Marc really loves baseball. So we would say every now and again when we'd have time off, the band and crew, we'd have these baseball games, and we'd so it was going to be the girls against the guys, and it's like that's like okay, sure, and I'm not trying to sound chauvinistic whatsoever. My wife would kill me. I'm not saying that, but it was just like, you had these guys that were really into baseball, and then you had like, I think so the background singers and Jennifer, and then her assistants and stuff like that. And then it was like, okay, but then you saw these other two girls that came up, but they were actually professional softball.
Oh, they're
one was a catcher. You ever have a professional softball pitcher like wind that arm up and throw that ball towards you? That seems like it's coming like 600 miles an hour.
Yeah, I haven't had that, but I watched professional softball.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah. Struck everybody out. The girls won. So, and that was a lot of fun. That was a good time, actually.
That's really cool, man. He rented. I mean, I'd like to do something special for my wife. I don't know that even if I had the money, I'd rent out a baseball park, but that's probably a cool thing to do if you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually cool to be like on the field and everything, and there's no one in the audience or like in the stadium, and then you're there, and it's overwhelming. I mean, it's huge.
That's got to be wild.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And so you played with Jennifer for a while, or you toured with them for a while, or?
Well, as long as she was on the tour, as long as she was with Marc, then yeah.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? It was a package deal. Jennifer came with Marc. Marc, Jennifer was doing her solo stuff, and it was odd, but Marc, he told me, he goes, I want to keep you for myself, because Jennifer was doing her spot dates, and he wanted to have me like how you saw the Hotel California thing, we would do like it would be Marc, then it'd be me, and I'd do these solos and stuff, and I'm just going off of what Marc told me. He says, I want to keep you for myself. So I played with Marc and Jennifer, but when Jennifer was doing her own thing, Marc used actually the MG, who kind of plays like acoustic guitar, and it was a little bit odd, but not going too deeply into it. I can kind of see where he was coming from, so I just had to accept it. It was all good. But, we hung out, we played some really good shows together, so it was all good. It was a great experience.
Very cool, man. How did you get into licensing, man? Because you've done literally, I'm looking at your IMDb page, like right here, and anybody could look up Aaron McLain on IMDb, which is a cool movie site. But composer, 55 credits. That's 55 different shows, and then you've done multiple episodes within each show. How did you get into that, and how did that all come about?
Well, first of all, I've always been into recording and writing, and I was doing my solo thing for a very, very long time. I was going back and forth to New York. I had my band out in New York. As a matter of fact, I was using Irvin, bass player from Marc's band, who was playing with me. Marc Quinones was,
Why do I know that name?
He's a percussionist. It's famous percussionist.
Yeah.
And let's see. I can't remember. He was playing with this huge band. It's like escaping me now, but it's.
Why are you using New York? I mean, I was surprised to hear you using New York guys, and you're in L.A.
Well, I would fly to New York, and I'd have a New York band, and I would also do gigs in L.A. So I would,
okay.
Instead of on the whole band, I would have two bands. So I was doing that, and I was really going for it, and I was getting close, and there was a lot of good things that happened, were happening, and then there was this label over the UK that was going to sign me, and right before Christmas, they sent me an email. They said they're going to change their mind. I went into a huge depression, and then we can eventually talk, because I saw some of your questions you were asking about some hard times. So that was at the beginning of my hard time that lasted for a couple of years, right before I got married, and my wife saved me. But it was extremely heavy. But so I was writing, my solo stuff. And at the time, and this was before the internet, I used to go to like Borders bookstores, and I used to get these books on how to mix and how to engineer and learn about compression and EQ and all that stuff, and learn about mic placement. So I figured, knowledge is key, man. I'm just going to learn as much as I could, because somebody told me a long time ago, it's like, you can try to, make a living playing an instrument, but you got to wear a bunch of different hats.
Yeah.
So my goal early on was, even back when I had friends that, their parents got them like, these big lots of recording equipment. Of course, it's like it was their equipment, so I can only use it when they said so. And a lot of times they were very selfish about it, and they made it very clear that it was their stuff. So I had like that 4-track, and where you'd have the tape, and then I ended up getting an 8-track. I got it used off the recycler, and then if it was that cassette that if you played it and rewound it and fast forwarded too much, it starts to stretch, and then your song starts to wobble. You know what I mean? So you got to get it right, because it was just one of those things. But I would just stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning. My brother was my roommate, and I had the squeaky chair, and he goes, "Aaron, stop moving so much." You could hear the chair just squeaking, but I was just composing and writing, and a lot of the stuff sounded like just a bunch of mess. And I was learning, I was practicing singing, and I just took some vocal lessons from this guy, Doc Holliday. He called himself Doc Holliday. But, so he would teach me he taught me how to sing. I ended up going to Helsinki with my band with Ed Roth and Thomas Michaels and, my good, dear late friend, Carl Crawford, he goes by Chill. So we went out to Finland, did some shows there. So anyway, solo career, recording, developing my writing skills. And, so when I was on the road with Air Supply about 5 years ago, I'm like, man, it's like, and I had my computer at home, but I didn't have a laptop that I could, that was like going to be the laptop, so I knew, and I was making decent money with Air Supply, but, it's supporting a wife and a kid and 2 kids with living in LA is kind of pricey.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's
totally
pricey.
Do.
So Air Supply was paying the bills, but I was living from paycheck to paycheck. So I woke up one day and I'm like, man, it's like I was actually in tears. I'm like, man, I need to do something else. I need to do something. And I still have my studio, but it's nothing like it is now. Now my studio, I can actually say, man, I spent some time and money in the studio, my desk and everything. And so at the time I was like, man, I got to do something. I was just, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I called my friend Eric Jolly, who's over at Digital Post, and he's like the main sound editor there. And he goes, so he was like, well, you got to build up your reel. So he said, just, do like some cues, do like, an action score, do like, do a drama a cue, do a comedy cue, and do some, various genres. So I just did that. So, but what I did was I didn't have the laptop. So, and I didn't have enough money to buy the laptop I needed. And I wanted, I'm a PC guy, so I needed a PC Audio Lab computer. Cause for me, as far as I'm concerned, man, these computers are made for composition, and they are just the bomb because they're just extremely powerful and made for scoring. So I needed this computer, and it was a couple grand, so I had to let go of a guitar. Didn't want to do that. We can talk about that later. But so I ended up getting the computer, started getting software. I started running Cubase, and I was always running Cubase, but I got the latest version of Cubase, started getting more and more plugins, and then that's when that was the beginning. So I did my reel, and I sent it to Eric, went over to his studio out in Hollywood, and he mixed it for me. He got me this Oakley ad, which was great. And so he goes, what you need to do is build up your IMDb page. So I went onto IMDb. I'm like, oh, this is where all the credits are. So then my friend Anthony Gatlin was telling me, he was telling me about the guys at Signature Tracks, and these guys, they feed music to television, like all those TV shows, and all the credits that I have is through Signature Tracks. So I tried to get with them.
So they're like what do they call placement? They get you the placement. They take 50% or whatever their split is.
Well, there's 200% of royalties. So you got your publishing, you got your writers. So the publishing, you're not going to see that.
Right.
It's just you got to play the game, man. It's like It's either, I don't know, 50% of something is better than 100%.
100%. Yeah, man. Of course, absolutely. Yeah, they're getting you the gigs. Totally.
Yeah. So they get the gigs. So and they get the gigs. So your stuff, if you're writing stuff for them, there's a high chance. There's a good chance that your stuff is going to get placed as long as you got good quality. You know how to, score the stuff. So he hooked me up with one of the guys over there, and Russell Howard. And I talked to Russell, and he didn't call me, but it was like about a year later, and I was still trying to get up, in touch with Russell. So finally, he was like, okay. He gave me the breakdown, and he told me what you need to do. It's like make about a minute and a half. Nice and strong intro. Do some different sections. Don't make it too repetitive, a nice little button on the end, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, so I put together 3 cues, sent it to him, and then he called Anthony. He goes, dude, why didn't you tell me that he could do this? He hit me up, and then I'm getting
after a year.
Yeah. So
did you string him out now?
No.
Hey, this works both ways, man.
Yeah, I mean, I was just honored to like have the opportunity because the way I am, like how you said, a workaholic, man. I'm the type of guy. It's like you tell me that it's on, it is on, and I'm gonna put the work into it. And so I got contacted by David and Adam and the rest of the guys at Signature Tracks. It's the three of them, and they sent me the paperwork, and I gave them all my BMI information, whatnot, and then they started saying, okay, try to write something for this, write something for that. So then I started building up my templates in my in Cubase to make my workflow more efficient and faster. And now you got to understand, it's like I'm also scoring while I'm on airplanes and in hotel rooms because the Air Supply, we're out every weekend. We're out on Thursday, back on Sunday. So a lot of that scoring, I got to prepare the guitar parts at home or score at home or like in the hotel room, prepare it, mix it and all that stuff. And after a while, I just started getting my flow going. And then they gave me the Price is Right account. The producers over there like really love the stuff, and then I started doing a lot of stuff for Price is Right, and we've got like 40% of the music of Price is Right, and they're playing my stuff every day, and then all these other TV shows, and Lord knows what other shows I'm on now, but I'll find out like in the next week or so when BMI pays out. That's
great, man. So what I want people to realize is that every time a piece of Aaron's music gets played, he gets a check. That's why this is such a smart, financially smart aspect of the music business, in my opinion, anyway.
I gotta tell you, man, it's like I know there's some really talented musicians out there, and I would say you could have the best guitar player, the best drummer, and some of those guys are probably working and making a crap load of money. But if you want to make a living at this music business, because it is a business, and I'm sure you've heard that 1,000 times, but you got to do more than one thing.
Yeah.
You got to do more than one thing. And it's like, and for me, as far as I'm concerned, the guys that are really, really making it happen, that are like, able to retire, because I mean, scoring for TV and film, first of all, there will never, ever be a time on this planet where there will not be a need for music in film or television or commercial. There will never, ever be a time.
Absolutely.
You'll never see movies and TV shows without music. So if you can get into that game, you can do that in your 60s, however old you are, as long as you can sit up and, take your medicine and go ahead and like, press record, you can go ahead and make it happen. But I tell a lot of guys, they're like, you can go ahead and promote yourself as an instrumentalist. And I tell a lot of young kids, especially, I'm like, in this day and age, you want to be really good at your craft. You want that. You also want to maybe play a couple of different instruments, but you want to be able to write and compose. But not everybody can do that. And the thing is, in order to compose, it takes a lot of time, and you need to really be an engineer, a writer, a composer, instrumentalist, and you need to look at your work objectively. And so not everybody has that kind of discipline, and not everybody has that kind of work ethic. They might think, oh, I did a cue this week. And it's like, no, you need to do like 3 to 4 to 5 to 10, if you really want to make it happen.
When you finally broke through with Price is Right, how did you feel, man?
I was ecstatic, man. I was like, I was telling my wife, I would go on CBS, and I'm like, I remember when they, it was like, and oddly enough, my wife is from the Czech Republic, and it was like, it's when they do the showcases and they tell you that you're going to win a trip, and they were like, you're going to win a trip to the Czech Republic, and then there's my cue, and like his guitars, and I'm like, holy smokes, and I'm
That's
like,
great, man.
And the thing is, when they do the showcases, that lasts about a minute. And then it was not just that. Then they went over to the other contestant. They said that what their vacation package was. And then there was another one of my cues. So back to back. And then they do this recap. And I'm like, wow. And that's like primetime CBS, major network. So that's like, that's not chump change.
No, that's awesome, man. Good for you. That's really good. And now you got a ton of credits on there.
Yeah.
Hey, you've played on a lot of TV shows. What was your best experience playing on TV? Anything cool or fun happen on any of the shows that really sticks out?
Well, I mean, I don't really have any connection with the shows other than the guys at Signature Tracks. So they send me the email or give me the call, and then I just work on the show. So
no. I mean, like shows that you've played on with artists, like like Billboard Awards, like Carrie Kilborn, Rosie O'Donnell, stuff like that.
Well, Rosie was always fun. I always liked doing the Today Show. I think that's the like right there in
Rockefeller Center,
right?
Yeah.
I always like doing that. Of course, you got to get up really early, for something early. That's brutal. but I did that a few times with Marc.
Oh, wait a minute. And you're traveling from the West Coast, so you're getting up at 5. It's like 2 a.m. for you.
Well, with Marc, I mean, the thing with Marc, I mean, we would be at the hotel like maybe 2 days before. So there would be a lot of times we would hang out in Miami, like in South Beach. There'd be one show and we're like hanging out on the beach for like a week and a half.
Okay.
The Marc gig was a lot of fun because we had a lot of chill time and, we stayed in some really nice places around the world. So, but that was a great show. But I will tell you the biggest highlight I would say was that live at Madison Square Garden, because that was my first time playing at the Garden. And if anybody's been there or if they haven't been there, the thing about that is one of the, I would say, the most famous venues in the world.
Absolutely.
And everyone, all the biggest stars and athletes, boxers, concerts, musicians, comedians have played that venue. So the energy in there, you feel it as soon as you walk in. Yeah. You cannot deny the energy in the Garden, and you can get very nervous if you let the nerves get to you. So I remember, there was like cameras on cranes. There was like, I don't know, there's so many cameras. There was like 2 big trucks with SSL boards in them recording, just TV, Access Hollywood, Entertainment Tonight. It was just extremely overwhelming. And I knew that I had to walk up there and do that one guitar solo, where the camera is right there on your guitar neck. The cameraman's right there on his knees, and he's got that lens right on your finger on the fretboard. And it was extremely exciting because you could see Julia Roberts, you'd see all these celebrities that were in the audience. And for me, like I said, I'm walking out on Don't Let Me Leave, and there's that intro. Right on the intro, there's this guitar piece, beautiful guitar piece. And in the middle of the song, there's a guitar solo. At the end of the song, there's another guitar piece that's like, again, camera on the fretboard. Very nervous, made me extremely nervous. But I remember standing behind the stage, getting ready to walk up the steps and saying to myself, it's like, wow. As far as I was concerned at my age then and where I was, I'm like, wow, I actually made it.
Yeah.
That feeling of knowing that I'm looking around at this sold out place in the Garden and to be a part of this historical moment, which is, it was fantastic.
Very cool, man. The energy in New York is off the charts anyway, but yeah, the Garden is a special place, man. Very special place. Are you working on anything now that you're excited about?
Well, I'm working on another TV show. I just got, the guy just turned me on to a TV show. It's something about superheroes, a DC thing. I'm not really sure. I've got to go into more detail as far as the briefing there, and I have to, analyze that a little bit. So I'm working on that. There's another company that I'm starting up with called Fine Tune, and I'm working on a cue for them, and the quality has to be exceptional. So I tell you, and I'm also working just like, I do a lot of projects for like artists that, that are, doing their solo thing and whatnot. So I've got a guy that's coming over, and, he's really, really talented. Really, his name is Jared Chadowski. And so I'm excited to do his stuff because, I can actually work on vocals and whatnot. So, that is kind of like what I'm doing. But what I'm just really excited about is just really scoring the stuff, because I just got the Atom A77X stereo speakers, and I really wanted these monitors. So anything that I record right now, I'm excited about because I've got these speakers, But right now, it's like, as far as any big major projects, I just want to do a good job for these TV shows and just keep it going, and that way I can keep on adding to this IMDb page, because my goal is I eventually, and knock on wood, I do want to receive an Emmy at some point in my career.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, that is my goal. So I'm just excited to keep on adding to my IMDb page and work on more shows and get bigger shows and whatnot. And
very cool, man. Man, I hope that happens for you.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm going to make it happen.
So to switch gears now, you mentioned this question before. What were some of the lower points or the more challenging times of your career, and how did you manage to get through them? And how did you manage to fight off any of the negative messages that creep up on, it always seems, at least for me, when that little guy that sits on your shoulder is invisible, but all of a sudden, shit's going downhill and he pops up and he's doesn't leave you alone.
Well, after Marc, I told you that I was thinking that I was going to get this deal with this company out in the UK, and then I was in between tours with Marc, and it was around November and into December, and I was really excited, and they sent me an email right before Christmas, and they said that they changed their mind. And at the time, hindsight being 2020, when people tell you to keep negative people away from you, and you got to make sure you surround yourself with people that are going to lift you up. I was in this mode where, like, because I was with Marc, and I was I was out there. Marc's gig was a big gig, so we were doing a lot of TV. I was on TV all the time, and so even when I was doing my gigs at the gig over here on Melrose in Hollywood, I mean, that place, I wouldn't fill that place. So I mean, there was a lot of people around, so I had a lot of friends around, but not everybody was somebody that I should have had around. And it's like, I tell that to anybody now, because hindsight being 2020, it's like, if I could do it all again, it's a lot of these people, ex-girlfriend, I should have walked away a long time ago. I had some friends that were just really did not have my back, and they were my best friends that just really, and people were telling me, it's like, man, that dude is a hater, man. So you would have people that were just
like, really, they were sponging off you, basically.
Sponging, but I mean, smiling in your face with daggers, in their hands, like when you turn around, man. It's like, lots of daggers in the back. I wrote a song about it, So at the time when the label decided to change their mind, I had this ex-girlfriend, and we were on and off, but it was kind of like towards the tail end. But it was just, there was just something that was, we had some unfinished business, I suppose. Turned out she was, borrowing money, and there was this other dude. It was just a lot of stuff, that was going on. A lot of stuff that was going on. And I found out a lot of stuff came to light, and I was flabbergasted about the news that I'd received. So it was between that and then the career just like seeming like I just stepped on the rug and someone just pulled the rug from under my feet, and everything just came crashing down all at once. And then I just went spiraling into a huge depression. So much so, I mean, we can just go ahead and talk. I mean, because I'm sure obviously I'm not the first person that's ever gone through this kind of stuff. And if there's somebody that's going through it right now, maybe something that for them to listen to. But I sat on my couch in my apartment that I was living in for so long, and I was like looking around, thinking about how am I going to take myself out? And I was extremely serious about it. And the one thing I was thinking is like, my mom would be devastated, and I was like, I can't do that to my mom. So I called the hospital, and I went to the hospital, and I told them that I was actually having thoughts of suicide. And then the doctor brought in another doctor, and then they're like, okay, this is serious, and they take these things very serious.
Yeah.
So I was at the hospital for a few hours, and then they sent me over to Cedars-Sinai, but at the time they told me to have a friend. I had to have my friend Kirk come over and pick me up and take me over to the hospital. And so he took me to Cedars-Sinai, and I was under evaluation, so I was there for a while. And the strangest thing, this lady who was volunteering, her name was Sidra Lacurdo, and we're still friends now. She was volunteering, and she goes, and she was like, what's wrong? And she's like, there's something about you. She goes, what is it? And, and I was just telling her. I was like, well, I had this deal, and there's people around me, and it's like, so she ended up contacting me about a week later, because I was home, and I had to go see a psychiatrist and a psychologist. I was on Prozac,
God.
And then, yeah, man, it was so heavy. And then my buddy Kirk stayed with me for a week, just, I was under observation, so I was getting better, so Sidra, she contacts me, and she goes on my, I think it was my, MySpace page, and she listened to my stuff. She goes, are you kidding me? She goes, this stuff is great. She goes, I know two guys, Ernie and Hammy, and they're starting a record label, and I played them your stuff, and they want to meet you. And then I ended up getting this deal with these guys. Yeah, man.
Holy shit.
Yes, dude. Yes. And my darkest hour. Here comes
that's
Sidra.
Your guardian angel, man.
Oh, my goodness, man. She just reached out to me because I posted a video of me playing with Air Supply in Chile on my Instagram, and she reached out to me. And yeah, so
wow.
This was right before the economy tanked, unfortunately, but still, I still ended up getting a deal, at the time. So So it was during that time that I was really having a hard time. But it was November 24th. During that time, I went to my friend's Thanksgiving dinner, and I was skinny as hell because I wasn't eating, and I was on Prozac, and I wasn't feeling. I mean, I wasn't myself. But there's woman that was sitting across the table from me, and my friend Anthony was just trying to talk to her, and she was trying to feed me, and she was trying to give me attention, but he was in between us. But she was trying to get me to eat, because I was so skinny, and I could barely look at her because she was so beautiful, and she just made me extremely nervous. I mean, my hands were already shaking because of the Prozac, but more so because she was across from that table, and I just every time I had a chance.
You were at a low point too, man. That's the
dude.
worst.
I was at a low point, but when I was looking at her, I was like, oh my God. So then as we left, I told my Anthony, I said,
got your mojo going, man.
Oh, dude, I said, dude, if I had the chance, man, I would marry that woman. So it was. I did not see her until I think January or February because I was still going through that hard time. And my friend, and she was asking about me, but my friend Tamarine was like, you don't want to mess with him right now. He's dealing with a bunch of stuff. Turns out she comes over to my apartment because my friend Tamarine's doing some vocal stuff. I'm producing a couple of her tracks. And she says, well, do you mind if I bring Gabriella? I'm like,
don't mind. Yeah.
So here's Gabriella there. She's standing over me, over my mixing desk and everything, like on the side. And I'm extremely nervous. And I'm doing a little bit better now. I'm a lot better now, but I'm still still going through stuff, but I'm a lot better. And so she came back the next day. So then we ended up going to see The Aviator, super long movie. And Tamarine says, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not feeling well. I'm not going to go. So it's just
she hooked you up.
From that day on, we saw each other every day. And so I can tell you she's from the Czech Republic. By March 11th, we were married, and it's going on 14 years now.
Wow, man. Congratulations. What a story.
Yeah. And she got me off that Prozac. She saw my hand shaking. She goes, you don't need that anymore.
Good for you, man. That's a great love story, man.
Oh, yeah. And, yeah, she just came home right now. So she's over there, just doing her fit club. So
14 years. That's awesome, man. Very good. Congratulations.
And everybody thought I lost because everyone around, it was like Aaron's losing his mind. He's going crazy. And, sometimes when you have –
and you might have been.
I was going. Oh, I was losing my mind, man. Yeah. I was gone. Dude,
man,
I was
life
gone.
is tough. I don't know how you go through life and not lose your mind.
Oh, my God. And I thought it was done. That little man – I had that little dude on my shoulder, and then there was another guy. He invited like a committee of people, and they were all negative, all just like little punks, man. Little punks on my shoulder just saying all the wrong things, man. It was just –
Besides your wife, which is like obviously a great thing, did you learn anything from that experience? Did it change? Do you evaluate the people you hang out with differently?
I tell people I did learn something. I know that you can't give up, and I do know that you are supposed to go. I think everyone, and if you haven't, God bless you. And if you never did, God bless you. But I think we all have our rock bottom. You have to hit rock bottom in order to appreciate the things that you have, the good things that are coming.
Yeah.
And I think it does build character. For me, I'm always very sensitive. I've always been sensitive. Oleta Adams she would always try these little tactics to get me out of my sensitivity. But I was who I was, and I am who I am. But of course, I aspire to be a better person than I was the day before. The day before. So. At the time, I didn't understand why I was going through what I was going through, but I needed to experience that, in order to really appreciate the person that I am today. And I will tell you this, man, it's like you can be at your lowest low, but, the universe, God, however you see it, if you stick to your guns, man, you will be able to, and you get the right people around, you will come out of it, and you will come out stronger. So I learned that, through perseverance and removing some of the things that are not healthy for you, getting rid of these things out of your life is the best thing that you can do, because you will come out of it. You will come out of it. But, in hindsight being 2020, I'm extremely happy that it happened the way it did. And I did suffer, but hey, man, I came out of it, man. It's like, and you really, and my wife will tell me, she told me this all the time. It's like, you can, even when you have like depressing days, you still never know what's around the corner as long as you stick to your guns. If you give up, you never know. You're never going to know, because nothing will happen, but if you keep it going, then the sky's the limit. That's how I know now. It's like, and even with the scoring for TV, when I was waking up in Newfoundland with Air Supply, I'm like, I got to do something, because I didn't want to just keep on going on the road forever, because Air Supply is not going to last forever. So I'm like, okay, something. So like 4 years later, here's like all these credits on my IMDb page when it's like I just had, my first royalty check after 6 months was $11. It's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know that takes a year or two to build up. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, so I did learn some stuff from that.
Man, thank you for sharing that. That was really cool of you. You grew up in LA, you said, right?
Yeah.
What was your childhood like?
Well, my parents divorced when I was 3. My mom's struggling. I ended up going. My brother, I have a brother, older brother, 1.5 years. We ended up going to Antelope Valley, out in the desert. It's about 60 minutes from here where I'm living right now, outside of LA, and it was really the desert.
She moved out there?
No, my mom stayed in LA. I moved out with my grandparents.
Okay, out into the valley. Okay.
Yeah, my grandfather had this nice chunk of land. He was a carpenter, so he built a huge house, So literally my backyard was dirt roads, tumbleweeds, lizards, snakes. We had a dog, we had some chickens. I think we had a monkey at a he was really mean.
Sorry, man. I'm not. I grew up in the Bronx, so I'm trying to envision this.
Oh yeah. So you grew up in the concrete jungle. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah. So so we had all. That's what it was, and we had all this land, and we had our mini bike. We had our, I had my turtle, that we found that was crossing the road. This beautiful turtle, little yellow, hard shell, obviously, but this yellow patch, and I loved that turtle. But for some reason, I go in to eat. I'm playing with my turtle. I mean, like it couldn't have been more than 5 minutes. I go back out. My turtle ran away.
Oh my God,
dude! It's a big turtle. How fast can a turtle run? The turtle was gone. Never found that turtle again. I was really disappointed about that turtle. I still tell my kids about my turtle. So
there's a song in there somewhere.
And so we were out there for like maybe 4 years. And by the time I came in, I was in the 5th grade. Ended up coming to LA. And started living with my mom, and my brother and I did, and it was great because I missed her so much, But she really needed to get together because, like I said, my dad had split and all that, and it just didn't work out. So I was in LA, I was in West LA, and I was the type of kid that I would like skateboarding, I would like I was into rock and roll, being African American at that time, if you're into rock and roll, that was like
It wasn't weird. It was just you were like
it's unusual.
Yeah, it was very unusual. Right,
yeah,
right.
I wasn't listening to Parliament and Rick James, even though I love Rick James, all that stuff. But I wanted to hear. As soon as I heard Van Halen, when I heard they talk about love, I'm like, and then like Zeppelin and.
Well, the thing was, when we were kids, because we were close in age, and you were a black dude listening to that, that was your like identity. Like, oh, he's the black dude into rock and roll.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I mean, they made fun of me. I was at the skate park. That's when there's skate parks now, but back then there were a lot of skate parks in Marina, in Skatopia, all these skate parks and whatnot. And it's like I was the only brother that was riding skateboards, so it was like, hey, black kid, get out of the way and all that stuff. I'm like,
really?
It's like and it was like
we didn't have any of that.
That was weird. It was kind of weird. It was kind of weird, man. So, but it's just,
How did you? Let me ask you a question, because we could laugh at it now, sort of, but like when you're a young kid and you gotta, like, how do you? How do you process that? Like, it's such an abnormal thing to have to deal with.
Man, I mean, without getting too deep into it, because I don't want it to turn into that whole thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially with today's climate, but it was a drag. It was a drag because I didn't see color. I mean, like I said, my thing was skateboarding. I was at the beach with my buddy Ron, with my buddy Alex. I was riding waves. That was my thing. It's just I couldn't help it, But it's just I just love rock and roll, man, and I just love just wheels and bikes and stuff like that. And I still ride my mountain bike. I'm like hardcore, full face helmet. I take my son. We go double black diamond. Still how I roll.
Seen your videos, man.
Yeah, man. That's just my thing. So, when I got that, even throughout high school and stuff like that, man, it's just like, my grandparents, they're from the South. They're from New Orleans. They're all Creole, but they, they used to tell me the stories. But they never taught us, they were never like, hey, this person is like this towards you, then you be like that towards them. We never, ever, they never, stress be racist or, look at anybody or treat anybody differently because of the color of their skin. It just wasn't in my DNA. It still isn't. I don't really care. If that's anybody's bag, that's their bag.
Yeah,
I feel bad for you know, that's some heavy energy. If your thing is like, you think you're better than somebody because of pigmentation of skin color, whatever, whatnot. So that's your thing, man. Not your thing, I mean, but I'm just saying, whoever that is.
No, I get you.
It was kind of tough. It was kind of tough, but then again, I've had a lot of friends, man, that were like just a lot of cool people, and there's just a lot of great people in high school in St. Monica's. I didn't really experience any of that stuff, and it was great, and they took me in, and it was just wonderful.
So was it like the usual, just a few assholes, like? Yeah,
summer jobs, just like they would let you know that they would definitely let you know, and it was I would tell my mom, and it would just be a drag, and you'd have to deal with people bumping you and all that stuff. But it's just, and look, man, you're gonna deal with an asshole no matter what color they are.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, man. It's like I can tell you like this, a group of people are acting like this, but I can show you a group of people over here that's gonna probably treat you the same way, if not worse. Like maybe one or two of them. You never know.
Yeah, totally, man. No, I dig it.
I'm just like, just be cool. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I know you can't control other people, but yeah, no, I get you. It's just it is a drag to have to deal with that shit. Did you know early on guitar was going to be your thing?
I knew from very early on. I remember being in New Orleans, and my cousin Aloma, she said that she was going to get me a guitar for Christmas. She ended up giving me a basketball, and I said, "Oh, I wish you would have got me a guitar," because I remember seeing that acoustic guitar in the grocery store. And every time I would see a guitar, I get the chills every time. And I was like 5 or 6 when I was in the desert, like with my grandparents. My cousins had this guitar. It was one of those, I don't know, maybe from Sears and Roebuck or something. It had one string on it. So I'd sit on the patio. My grandmother used to play the radio, and there would be Casey and the Sunshine Band and Sly and the Family Stone on the radio. And then I'm up there with just that one string, and I get a wire, wrap it around my shoulder, tied to the guitar. And I'm like, we had a bunch of cats and dogs. Well, just a couple of dogs, Rex and Princess, bunch of cats. And I'm like pretending like I'm on stage, and I'm like 6 or 7 years old, And so every time I saw a guitar, I got the chills, It was when I went to Arizona to visit my father, and my father, my father's side, they come from a line of photographers. So my father, he had this acoustic guitar that had a Mel Bay Easy Way A book in it, teach you how to read, the first the strings on the guitar, up until the first the third fret or whatever. You're playing Old McDonald and all that stuff, basic book. So he gave me a camera, gave my brother the guitar. My brother's like, "Well, Dad, Aaron always wanted to play guitar, so I'm going to give him the guitar." And I'm like, "Al, are you serious, dude? Are you serious?"
Wow, that's cool.
So that entire summer, man, I had that Mel Bay book and that acoustic guitar. Excuse me. And I taught myself how to read, taught myself how to play, at least on the first 3 to 4 strings of the guitar. And then I ended up going to, when I went home, I played all summer. My mom gave me, she started paying for my guitar lessons. So I used to take my skateboard, I would get on my skateboard, I would skate down to La Cienega, get on La Cienega and Pico with my guitar, jump on the bus, get off on 3rd Street in La Cienega. This is before the Beverly Center was there. I don't know if you know about the Beverly Center.
I don't know anything about LA.
But some of the people on the West Coast, they would know.
Yeah.
So I would get off the bus and I would skate all the way down to Geisler Music. I would take a half-hour lesson with Kevin Dukes. And Kevin, he would play for Boz Scaggs and a lot of other people. Great guitar player. So he was my music teacher, man, and I took lessons from him from maybe about 1.5 years, 2 years. And just taught me some really cool riffs, and taught me more about reading, and he just taught me he turned me on to Prince, as a matter of fact, and then he turned me on to Prince's single "I Want to Be Your Lover" was out, and he said, "I want you to listen to this." He goes, "Listen to this guy. This guy is playing every instrument," and he says, "Listen to his pocket," and that's when I first heard the term pocket. And he says, "Listen to this pocket, listen," and I'm like, wow, that's pretty insane. So he that whole thing. So I'm like, okay, cool, man. So he taught me that. And
how old were you at the time?
I was 11 or 12.
Okay.
Yeah, that was back in the day when you could be 11 years old and you can go home, out and play through in the streets and come home when the sun came down. You didn't have to worry about anybody snatching you up.
I know. I can't do that now.
My boy's 11. He's not getting on a bus anywhere.
No, I know.
Anywhere without a GPS or just
without a gun.
No, exactly, man. So you can't do it. Don't let your kids go out.
No. I know. I think I used to take I was working when I was 13 down in Manhattan. I would take a bus and 2 trains into the city. 14. And I would never let my kids do that now.
No, not now. Not now.
Hell no. So when your dad got you that guitar, that sort of like put you on the trajectory to.
Yeah, he gave me my first guitar, and then he ended up getting an amplifier. Once I got an electric, got an amplifier for me in the pawn shop, which is great. From there, then it just stuck.
If you could go back and give yourself, the younger Aaron McLain, advice, what advice would you have given yourself, assuming you would have wanted to hear it? What would you have benefited from knowing, let's say 25 years ago?
I read that question yesterday, and I was really trying to think about it. Honestly, I might just reiterate. I would definitely say, look, everything happens for a reason. So I would say, to say if this person or these people were not in my life, things obviously would be different, but I would definitely pick my friends, and I would say maybe not have toxic people around and avoid them. If I could go back and say, I'd be like, hey man, you might not want to spend any time with this person, or you might want to maybe not call this person.
Yeah.
I would say maybe that. But as far as my career, I could say, all right, well, maybe I should have done this. I had the opportunity to go on tour with Maxi Priest. Okay, when I was done, got off the first tour with Oleta Adams, and I went to Maxi Priest's hotel, and his girlfriend was there smoking a huge fat one. And I didn't want to get stoned.
Shocking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go figure. You know what I mean? So he showed me, and and it was Jeff Lorber and my friend Alan Meyerson that turned me on to Maxi Priest, and they really wanted me to go on tour with them. And I was loyal to Oleta, and I even told Terrance Trent Darby that when I was at his house recording on Delicate. I'm like, I can't believe I actually said that. Yeah. So, it's like I was in Maxi's hotel room, and he was like, he goes, man, it's like, we would love to have you on board. And, and for me, it was important for me to not just sit behind the curtain and just play rhythm guitar. I wanted to be able to stand out. I wanted to shine. I wanted to do my thing. That was just my thing.
Sure, man.
But Maxi was like, I'm like, well, I was talking to management, and they were like, well, Maxi really wants you to be on board. And, first of all, they wanted me to share a room. And I wasn't, at that point, I didn't want to share a room. With Jermaine, I was sharing a room, but I didn't want to share a room. And I was like, well, I kind of want to do some guitar solos. And then they were like, they'll do guitar solos. And then the money wasn't right. So then I wanted more money. And I was working with this other band at the time. So just coming off Oleta's tour, working with this other band. And the other band was like, with Zach and Modern View, they're like, no, we're going to get signed. We're going to get signed. Yeah, right. Didn't happen. So I ended up telling Maxi's people after going all this, and they were giving me everything that they wanted. And I told them, like, sorry, I'm not going to do it. But the tour schedule, literally was all over the world for like 2 years. And I just really wasn't wanting to do that. So maybe I'm going off on a tangent here, but hindsight being 2020, it's like maybe things would have been different if I had done that. However, if I'd done that, I wouldn't be married to who I'm married to, and I wouldn't have the kids that I have. And if I had done anything different, even when I went through that hard time, even if I'd done that, if I did anything different, if any day was different, then I wouldn't be where I am now. Now, I could say, maybe if I'd done this, then I would be rich. I'm not rich. I'm comfortable. You know what I mean? It's like, life is up and down, so things could really suck, and it's music. Yeah. So right now things are good. Like I said, that's why I'm doing the scoring for TV, to make sure that I keep things good. But I could say, oh, if I had done this, then maybe I would be a millionaire, and maybe I would just have like, a bunch of houses and whatever. But then again, I ask myself, is that really my bag? That's not really my bag. Do I want all that stuff? I'm not into fancy cars. I've got some decent cars out there, but look, I got an Explorer and an older Escape. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
So I don't need a Ferrari. So it's like if I was the type of guy that was like saying, oh, I need all this material stuff and I need all this money, then I'd be like, oh, if I had done this better, if I had done this right, if I'd taken Maxi Priest gig, if I'd done all this, then maybe I would be extremely wealthy. But I don't need to be wealthy monetarily. I actually am wealthy as I want to be right now. And I still want to, like, you know, I will get more and go for more because, you know, I stick to my guns. And if it all ends tomorrow, then, hey, man, I did my best. But I am extremely wealthy because any chance that I get to see those beautiful kids that I have, I'm a millionaire. I guarantee you. I love those human beings.
That's awesome, man.
Oh, dude, man, this is like, you know, to see what I you know, my wife is giving me these beautiful children and my beautiful wife and everything. So honestly, man, it's like if you ask me where would I want to be, right here in my studio talking to you and doing the things that I'm doing right now.
That's very cool, man. I would imagine when you had kids, you didn't do that lightly coming from a situation where you had mom and dad split like that and you had to go out to grandmas and granddads. I'm sure that was like very well thought out, no?
I thought I was a complete loser.
Yeah,
I was like, what am I going to do? It's like, I'm a guitar player. It's like, you know, I'm in between tours and I just came, you know, like I said, my wife and I got married quick and about a year later we had Roman, you know, and Anka came 3 years after that. So, you know, when my son was born, I'm like, I mean, I talked to a lot of dads and they were like, you know, they asked themselves the same question. How am I going to do this?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, some people might have it where it's like, you know, the family, they got family support and they can, you know, it's like, boom, it's like, you're going to be set. Don't worry about the thing. You know, for, you know, it's just different recipes. For me, it was just like, man, when I got married, I had like my mom even told my wife, she goes, you know, he doesn't have a lot of money, right? And man, I got married. I had $30 in my hand. I was
That's
broke.
a great kind of wife to get, though.
Yeah, man. And I was glad that she didn't mind. She drove a raggedy car, thank God, at the time. And I got her into a nice Ford Focus after that. And then I was like, now I can go ahead and kick the butt. But listen, I was broke at the time. But then I had like a Colgate commercial where I was making a bunch of money in between, you know, tours. And that's the thing about doing those tours. You can make a bunch of money. And, you know, when you come off tour, then it's like, crap.
Yeah,
bills keep going. You don't have work. So I was in between, didn't have work. So when Roman was born, and I just gotten that record deal, and, you know, the money was like it was still kind of low. I was nervous, man. I was like, how am I going to make this happen? How am I going to do this? You know, and that's like one of the biggest challenges in life. And that's why I see guys that have kids and they don't care about their kids and they'd rather go play golf and they don't care about spending time with their kids. And it's like, or they just don't want to invest in their children. You know what? I offer you a middle finger. You know, you can't care about your kids.
Good for you, man.
If you got all your money and you're cool playing golf, you know what I mean? But you know, your kids need you. It's gonna come back on you when your kid is giving you the middle finger.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? It's gonna happen.
It's totally gonna happen.
No offense to anybody, if you know you roll how you want to roll, but the man or the woman that's down for their kids, you just gotta. If you're gonna have the kids, you gotta give it your best shot, man.
Yeah, you gotta give it 100%. Yeah, that's the way to do it, man. Hey, let's talk about gear for a minute. What is? Are you a gearhead? Do you collect tons of guitars?
Man, I'm not. My buddy Ron, you know, he just had a heart transplant. Thank God, you know, and he's got some best Rickenbacker guitars, Strats. He's got some great Les Pauls. He's got some amazing guitars. I mean, just a really fine collector of guitars. I have never really been like that. You know, I'm like the guy that says, oh, I've got these vintage Marshalls and I've got, you know, these vintage Voxes and whatnot. And, you know, it's just never really been my bag. You know, I like stuff that sounds good.
Yeah. What's your go-to?
My go-to guitars are my famous guitars, you know, as far as my electric guitars, and I have some Godin guitars, but, you know, I've also got some Godin electric guitars. I've got a custom guitars by a guy named Mark King. He's not really making guitars much anymore. I think he's more going, I'm not sure if he is or not, but he was making some really great custom guitars, like this custom Telly and this custom, Telly body and Strat body that are just amazing. So those are like my Tellys and my Strats, but you know, headstock is different, you know, so I can't call them a Telly or Strat. So
sure.
Yeah. So those are my main guitars. The guitars that I'm using on the road right now is a frameless guitar, and that's the is a Stevie Salas model, and that's just a badass guitar, you know. And I've got Fishman pickups in that guitar, and I've got another frameless guitar that has a Tele type body, you know, that I use for more of the cleaner sound, you know, that's got some Duncans in it, you know. And then I've got various acoustic guitars, Washburn acoustic guitars and Godin acoustic guitars, you know, and like a really nice Warwick bass. I've got a bunch of Hamer guitars because, like I said, when I first started off, I was playing Hamer, you know. And what else is in the garage? I've got guitars that are around. I've got a bunch of different guitars I have to think. And I've got a really nice Parker that I really love that I used to use with Mark. And actually 2 Parkers. I actually let one go.
The Parker Flies?
Parker Flies, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got those.
You say you let one go for?
Well, again, it's like when I was telling you when I was started off with Air Supply, you know, just with Air Supply, you know, with my overhead living in California, I was living paycheck to paycheck. So in order to acquire the laptop to start scoring, I had to let a guitar go. And
good for
that
you.
Guitar, unfortunately, and actually I was very saddened by it because that guitar was a guitar that I used at Madison Square Garden when I did that HBO special. So if you see that video of me playing that white guitar, and it's kind of relic because, you know, it's kind of like, you know, there's all these abrasions and whatnot. So I put it on eBay, and this guy, and I put the pictures along with the selling point. I put pictures of me playing the guitar at Madison Square Garden.
Smart.
That's a good selling point, you know what I mean? So of course that guitar went, like, you know, real fast, and I was able to get my laptop, but I had to sacrifice that guitar to get this laptop to go ahead and get those credits on TV. So,
yeah, man, but you made your return on investment many times over. So
yeah, you know, so
that's a good story, not a sad story, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're more of a utilitarian, like you use things as your tools, and you know you're not.
Yeah. You know, if I can get a good sound out of it, then I'm good. You know, and when I was with Mark, you know, I'd been approached by the guys at Gibson, and you know, it was like we had done the Super Bowl, and it was Versace's house. You know, Gibson had rented it out, and they had a bunch of Gibson guitars. But at the time, you know, I played one of their acoustic guitars for the I Got You video, and they're like, yeah, we can do a deal. But, you know, they wanted me to be exclusive at the time. And
only play Gibsons.
Yeah. And I just didn't know. And they weren't, like, giving the guitars away, even if they weren't, you know, the Gibson guitars that I like, you know, are like the really high-end ones. You know,
sure.
Like, he's got like the
custom.
Yeah, he's got the custom one, a couple of custom ones that are like $5, $6, $7 and those guitars, man. I mean, I play those guitars. I'm like, if I could have one of those, then I'll be all over it.
Yeah,
you know, those are amazing guitars. But some of the other guitars, I'm like, they're cool. I'm like, as far as the way I am as a player, the Les Pauls are cool, but that SG that you have, see, I would play one of those. You know, I like that longer scale neck, and then you don't have to worry about that heel. But the Les Pauls, you know, you got that heel like when you get up there, you know, on the 12th fret and then beyond. Yeah. You know, it's just there's a big chunk there, you know, and it's like for me to work around the neck, and plus the fact that I'm, you know, they're heavy guitars, you know. But then again, if I do come across with an amazing Les Paul, I would not turn it away. I guarantee that.
I hope somebody from Ford is listening, because you should get licensing with Ford, man. You got 2 Fords you mentioned.
You know, those guys at Ford, man, they give me a good deal. My buddy Patrick over there, man, you know, I don't have to sit on the showroom floor. I go in the back, and he hooks me up, and I turn them on to like 5 different clients, man. It's like, you know, I've at least like 5 cars from them by now. So
you need to get some licensing with Ford, man.
Yeah, no kidding. You know, maybe do like a commercial spot for them.
Hey, name a couple of players you've really enjoyed jamming with, and maybe 1 or 2 you'd like to jam with.
Ed Roth is a good friend of mine, and I really enjoy playing with him. I really do.
Where is he from?
He's from LA. He's a Brazilian guy, and he's a keyboard player, amazing keyboard player, an amazing human being. You know, honestly, Kevin Eubanks, when we were up at Warwick's place, he never would play guitar. He would always play bass, and he'd let me just jam. And the fact that he is such a cool guy, and the fact that I know that I'm playing next to like such an amazing guitar player that could smoke me on his worst day, that sit up there and it's like smile at me, and it's like, you know, and be totally cool, and it's like, you know, that was an honorable and just a really fun thing to do. So I mean, I really enjoy playing with him. You know, there's just a lot of great musicians that are out there. Let's see. Actually, when I was going to Dick Grove, I went to Dick Grove with Robert Trujillo, and I didn't tell you that story, but when he came in, again, like I told you, Dick Grove the curriculum was really intense. So if you didn't have a lot of theory in your pocket, prior knowledge, it would be very tough. So I remember talking to him, and like the theory, he was struggling with it. Yeah, I was struggling with it, but I was there for at least 6 months already, so I kind of had a better grip on it. But the thing about Robert, it's like, first of all, he has hands like a bear. I don't know if you've ever seen his hands, but that dude would sit up and thump on the bass, man. And I'll tell you what, I had never heard anybody play like that.
Really?
So we'd hang out. Yeah, he'd come over to my apartment. We would jam. And when I had this little new wave band, so we jammed, and him and another drummer. The other guy in the band just wasn't, he wasn't pro enough, and so Robert wasn't feeling that. So, but we went to see Thomas Dolby. I used to go to his place in Venice. We hung out for about a year and a half, I would say, and we would jam and just jam on some funk stuff. But just playing with that dude and that kind of pocket that he had. I like playing with really good bass players and drummers that have good pocket, drummer that could really listen to the hi-hat. So Trujillo, just be able to tell that story. And I knew that he was going to be huge. I knew it. It's like, there's just no way this guy's not going to be successful. And of course he's with Metallica, so he's doing this thing, and I'm really proud of him and happy that he's got such great success. So
do you guys still talk once in a while?
No. He's with Warwick. I'm with Freeman, so we never crossed paths ever since then. So I'm not saying that we won't. Maybe we will one day.
Sure.
But even still, to know that I was able to hang out with this guy. Honestly, he's like one of the greatest bass players out there. So that was great. Dion Estes, we're still kind of friends. He's doing his own thing now, and I'm not sure where he is. But again, that's another bass player that has a pocket that you just sit in that groove, man. And I like the kind of cast where you get to sit in a pocket. My late friend Bubba Bryant, a drummer, I've never felt a pocket like his. And he just passed away last year. Again,
dude, you've known a lot of dudes that have passed away. I'm afraid to be on this call with you.
Dude, it's just, I know, I kind of said that.
Yeah.
You know what the funny thing is? I will tell you this, and it's odd, but the people that were most supportive of me, that really had my back, that just, you have some people are friends because they can benefit off you, like you might turn people into gigs and gear, but they're your friends, but they're not really your friends that are really down for you.
Yeah.
Then you have some friends that are more acquaintances. But throughout my career, I had a lot of friends that were like, friends, but they want to see you successful, but not as long as they're successful. Those kind of things.
Yeah. It's tough.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I ended up being around a lot of people like that, but they're like these really friends that were like that. My friend Chill, Carl Crawford, extremely supportive. My friend Marvin Valentine, keyboard player, that I used to do a lot of gigs with down in Santa Barbara or whatever. This guy would always encourage me. When people said I couldn't sing, he always encouraged me to sing, encouraged me to write, was extremely supportive. All these guys that I'm like mentioning, like, I still have a couple of them around, but these guys were like unconditional friends.
Yeah.
Unconditional. And it was just kind of strange because I was telling my wife, it's like, all my really good friends that I know that are really, really down for me. And as you get older, man, people start to go anyway. That's how life is. But it was just odd that these people were like, these were like really positive, like unconditional friends. That if I needed them, they would be there. I don't have those kinds of friends. Maybe one or two or three, but a lot of my friends right now, I don't want anybody to take offense to it, but you got your best friends, you got your people that are really down, but not everybody I can say are like, hey, can I call you up? I need this. I really need this. And some of them you can, but these guys.
I think that gets tougher to maintain as you get older, simply because you're more distant, man. Everybody's in their own shit, the family, the work, whatever.
Own thing,
I understand what you're saying. I don't take any of that stuff personally. Everybody's just busy.
It's all good. A lot of these friends they're friends. You can hang out, you can have beers, and more acquaintances and whatever. But like then you do grow distant because you start having a family. You don't get to go and have beers with all these people anyway.
No.
It's just really kind of tough.
Especially with your schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, man, music, Desert Island Discs, top 3, no particular order, knowing you could change tomorrow. So what would be your knee-jerk reaction? Top 3 Desert Island Discs.
Van Halen, Fair Warning. what is it? Well, I'd actually have to think of it because I'm like so across. I would say maybe Stevie Ray Vaughan, Sky is Crying, and let's see. I have to really think about the third one. I have to think. Well, I'm gonna come back to you on that one.
You have big hands? Are you a big guy?
No, man. I'm like. You said you're 5'9"?
Yeah.
I'm 8.5, 5'9".
Okay, so
I've got like long fingers.
Okay. Because you mentioned Stevie Ray, I'm like, God, that guy's hands were. You're talking about a guy with big hands, man, big strong hands. I mean, that guy was a monster. Playing 13s or something like that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Man, what are some of the most important things you've learned about you throughout your career experience and through life in general?
Well, I'm extremely sensitive, and I think that could be like, that has been maybe kind of helped me, but a lot of time it's been to my detriment. You know what I mean? I take things to heart, and I let things get to me. So I think that would be like my, like something that I wish I could, that I've been practicing getting a grip on to not be as sensitive, because I could save myself a lot of brain chatter.
Yeah.
And a lot of stress, and reading into things that people do and say and taking it to heart. Maybe they didn't even mean it that way.
Yeah,
And some things that just don't even really matter at the end of the day anyway. So if I would say anything, but I think me as, I think people who are, the artist type people can be kind of sensitive.
Yes, in general, yeah.
But I'd say if I could change that, but then again, if I change it too much, and I wouldn't be who I was. So I just have to accept it. You know what I mean? I do think a lot, probably why I'm having insomnia right now. So, but I think I would definitely change the fact that I am a little bit more sensitive than I should be.
Yeah, that's tough to do that, but yeah.
Yeah, you can read books and all that stuff, but which kind of helps.
Tell me something about yourself, Aaron, that people would either be surprised to hear or might find a little odd.
I'm extremely goofy. Like, first of all, what's odd is I literally have serious conversations with myself.
Like out loud?
Yep. I'm like talking as if I'm literally talking to a committee of listeners and in my head. So it's a little bit crazy. So, my kids and my wife, she's like, you're talking to yourself again.
Can I tell you something, man? The other week, my wife comes in. I just stepped out of the shower, and my wife comes in and she goes, "Who are you talking to?" I said I was just talking to myself.
Yeah.
And she looks at me. And her new thing is now she goes, "Oh, I see some things about you. You're getting old." I said, "No, I'm not getting old." I said,
"Yeah."
So I don't do it all the time, but I do chat with myself when I'm trying to work through something. Yeah, when I'm trying to work through something, or like if I have negative stuff going on, I'll talk to myself out loud. Like, man, why are you thinking about this stuff? Be realistic. Is that the way things are? You're punishing yourself for no reason because you're feeling bad about something else or whatever. So yeah, I don't have extensive like encyclopedia conversations, but I think it's like chatter from time to time.
Hey, you know what? I want to make a correction. I meant to say couldn't stand the weather.
Okay, I was wondering about that. Yeah, okay.
I couldn't stand the weather. That's the one I actually meant to say. So I don't know why I said the Sky is Crying, but couldn't stand the weather. That's just one of my favorite all-time records.
Most important person in your life?
Oh, I have to go with one?
No, you can go with a couple. Or
it's
people.
My wife, my kids, and my mom.
Your mom's still around?
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. You have any non-musical superpowers?
As far as things that I do well?
Yeah, things that you do well outside of music, or like weird gifts or, something like that?
Well, not really. I mean, I am pretty good on a mountain bike, I'm really good on a mountain. Actually, really good. I've always been good on a bike. My kids are really good on bikes. My son, I took his training wheels off a month after he turned 3. And then, when he was riding Black Diamond when he was like, I think 7 or 8, but that, and I'm kind of good at martial arts. I think I would be a lot better if I was able to, I missed my belt testing like 4 or 5 times, and I do like martial arts a lot. Hold on a second. But I wouldn't say I'm the guy that can go and compete and, I'd probably get my face cracked open or stuff like that. So, but that's just something I really enjoy and I do like a lot. So I was taking, Kyokushin and some Kempo Jiu-Jitsu. But I think if I was home and if I was able to go to classes like at least 2 to 3 times a week, I think I would actually have a good knack for it, because I tend to have like some good speed and, as far as just being physical, it's like working out and things like that. It kind of comes a little bit more natural for me.
Good genetics for that.
Yeah.
That's
like,
great,
it's just one of those things. Like if my wife trains me or whatever, it's like, it's like the muscles respond really well. So, I mean, athleticism, I think if I really focused on that, I think I would, pretty much be somewhat decent, I would say.
3 more questions, dude. And I can't thank you enough for your time.
No worries.
Has your life been different than what you'd imagined?
Has it been different?
Yeah, has it been different than what you imagined?
Well, the way I imagined my life before I had kids, I mean, literally, I really I wanted so bad to be a solo artist. I spent a lot of time and like it was a lot of time and a lot of heartache. So I imagined, selling a bunch of records and being on stage and doing my solo thing and traveling the world. I imagined that, was great. But then again, like being with other artists and knowing what all the stuff that comes along with it, but it just seemed like it was getting further and further out of my reach. You know what I mean? As I started getting older. And then once the economy tanked and once that whole thing happened, when I hit rock bottom, and then even when I got that deal, I wasn't quite sure. So, the thing about, when you're in this kind of business, you could go so many different ways. Success can either not come or it can come from so many different directions. So there's, if I was going to like a 9-to-5 job, I would pretty much know if I'm in this job, I'm going to probably do this job for 15, 20 years, retire. And I pretty much know I'm going to probably get an RV. I'll go, travel the country, my whole thing. And, just like, I don't know, maybe actually start, playing golf, you know what I mean? And just and do that. That was really never my bag, so it's like, you never really know. For me, I have no idea what's going on. So I think I'm pretty much like, with eagerness, I'm just letting it all happen, just knowing that I'm doing the things that I need to do to make ends meet and make, get from point A to point B, and keeping it honest, keeping it real, treating people with respect and seeing where life takes me and hopefully towards more success. And, it kind of, everybody wants a financially comfortable future,
sure.
And especially for your kids. So I am aspiring to get them nicely set up so they don't have to struggle and have to worry about some of the things that I had to deal with.
Well, they don't have anything you had to deal with. So you did it. You're good.
Yeah.
What's the favorite place you've traveled, man? You've been all over the world multiple times.
Man, I've been to a lot of places. Yeah. I love Singapore. I love Asia. I love Asia a lot. Just for many reasons. I love, various cultures. It's, various cultures within Asia, but I love the humility and I love the respect. I love, especially in the Japanese culture. I love going to Europe. I like Canada a lot. I love Vancouver. I'm all over the place. I'm thinking about my favorite cities. I love Tokyo. I love Vancouver, because first of all, Vancouver is it's a pretty city. And besides, you've got like just right across the water, you've got, Whistler, you've got the mountains, and I love the outdoors, man. But I love different places for different things. I like Rome because of the culture and, all that stuff that comes along with it. I went to South Africa with Air Supply. For obvious reasons, I was in shock by how things are down there, even post-apartheid. So
when was this?
That was about 4 years ago.
And it's still
it for me, I'm very sensitive to these things, and in talking to people and to see, just kind of like looking and watching how people look at other people and how they look at, I was just like, it's pretty thick, maybe some people won't say that. It's just what I observed. But then again, we went to the Cradle of Humankind, which is this excavation site where, you can see the origin of man and just like the history that's there. And then the fossils and artifacts that can be found. It's just like amazing. To have that experience and to go into these caverns and whatnot and to know that early man, came from this area, it's just overwhelming. People have no idea that this place exists, but if you ever get an opportunity.
Where is that?
It's called the Cradle of Humankind.
And where is that in South Africa?
That's in South Africa. Yeah.
What city?
Geez, well, see, I might have to Google it.
Oh no, I thought if you knew it, it just sounds interesting. Cradle of Humankind.
Yeah, just it's
you don't need to Google it, man. People could look it up.
Yeah, I know. It's outside of Johannesburg.
Very cool. Cradle of Humankind.
Mm-hmm.
And man, last question. What's been the biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years? And has this change been intentional or is it just a process of aging?
I think it's both intentional process of aging. And, you're married for quite some time, right?
26 years, yeah, man.
Yeah. So I think, so you can understand this. I think, us as men, and I read this book and my wife turned me on to Eckhart Tolle's book.
Power of Now?
Yeah, no, I read that one, but it's called A New Earth. Mm. And it's in that book that really changed me. I read that book like maybe 6 years ago. And once I read that book, I was able to understand the ego. And I really was able to see myself and see why I do some of the things. And because I had kind of like a bad temper, not like a furious temper, but I could, I'm being sensitive. So, that sensitivity can trigger like anger and things like that. And I didn't like that, so by reading that book, I learned to become a lot more patient. I learned to identify my ego, especially with alcohol. And I would recommend any man, if you haven't read it, even women, because women have egos too. It's like, let's be real about it, but not as big as men, most men. But I would recommend any man to read that book, especially with alcohol and how it triggers the ego. So in moving my ego and kind of suppressing it a little bit, I think I'm a much better person.
Good for you.
I see life a lot clearer by working out with my wife, with her fit club, just mentally, my state of mind is a lot more clear. I do strive to be, like I said, a better person than I was yesterday, and it's very important. It's important for me to show my kids, that calmness, and show them that, hard work and the pursuit of knowledge, how that is going to be beneficial, so I am strongly focusing on making sure that I can be the best version of myself possible.
Very cool, man. And that's called The New Earth?
A New Earth.
A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Thanks, man.
Yeah, man. Highly recommend that book, guys.
Hey, let me tell everybody where to find you. Aaron, I really appreciate your time, and you're a fucking righteous dude, and thanks for being so straight up with everything.
Thank you for having me, brother.
So check out Aaron on tour with Air Supply. Look him up online. It's Aaron McLain, McLain. Few places you can look. First of all, they'll be touring October, November, December, New York, Orlando. Then they're out to the Midwest, and then they're off to Europe, which seems pretty cool. Why is everybody going to Europe in like November and December? It's cold there.
I know. But then again, you get Air Supply, man. It's like these guys tour 11 months out of the year, so they're going to end up going somewhere. Cold, hot.
Yeah, that's true, man. Also, check out Aaron's imdb.com page for TV and scoring. He's got tons of stuff on there. If you're looking for somebody to do a soundtrack, he's composing also for signature tracks and fine tone music, but he is available. Hit him up, and you can hit him up on Instagram. What's your Instagram, man?
Just Aaron McLain.
Great. And it's Aaron, Aaron, McLain, McLain. And also, his wife is a maniac trainer. So if you need to get in shape and you're out in the LA area, check her out on her Instagram. It's Gabby's Fit Club, Gabis Fit Club. Did I get that right?
Gabby's Fit Club. That's right.
All good. And she will be happy to beat you up and get paid for it.
Yeah, she will get you straight.
Man, I appreciate your time. Thanks for everything. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Craig. I appreciate it, man.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this interview, share it with a friend on your social media channels. We appreciate your support and help with this. Thanks again to Aaron McLain for spending time with us and for keeping it real. Make sure you go to the homepage of everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get on our newsletter list. You can get advance notice of guests, and you can have the opportunity to send in your own questions. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.